Hello, today I'm going to tell you a little bit about two styles of art that came out of France and also show you how you can make your own picture using a simplified version of one of these styles. In about the 1880s, a group of painters, Claude Monet is the most well-known of them, they started a style called Impressionism. And with Impressionism, they weren't concerned about giving you a really realistic picture. They instead wanted to give a quick impression, especially of the play of light on things. And they use quick dabs and strokes of color to give you that impression. Monet, he painted a lot of different things. Like here, you can see there's two different pictures of almost the same thing. They're of haystacks. He has a whole series of haystacks. He also painted a whole bunch of this Japanese footbridge that he had over a garden. There's a whole bunch of water lilies, and he mostly painted things in nature, and he would do them at all different times, the same thing over and over at different times of day, different types of weather, different seasons, to show how there is a difference in the impression that you got. Because even if you go back to the same place every day, even if it was at the same time of day throughout the year, you're going to have a different impression, and some of the background might be different. The light each day is not exactly the same. So that's what they were working on. They really tried to change things. At the time, they really weren't appreciated. People actually made fun of them. He didn't make a lot of money for it, at least at first. Now he's considered one of the best artists of all time. And if you had an original Monet, then it would be worth a lot of money. And they're in museums all over the world. Out of that Impressionism and the idea of how light plays on things, people also started experimenting with how we see color. And one of the things that came out of that was something called Pointillism. And the main artist for that, and I might not be saying his name exactly correct because my French is not great, Georges Seurat. Okay, so here's his most famous picture. Now this is just a printed out copy of it, and it's much smaller than the real one. The actual picture is over 6 feet tall, and I can't remember, at least no more than 8 feet, over 10 feet, maybe 12 feet long. It's a very large picture. It actually took him over 2 years to finish it. And part of the reason for that is he was not using your traditional brush strokes. Instead, he did points of color, and he actually used the color and the points. These are, you can see the shapes of people, you can see the trees, you can see the boats out on the water, but he actually used how color and how our eye perceives color. He used complementary colors like orange and blue next to each other to help create these outlines and help your eye reconstruct these shapes out of the dots. Now, I do not know enough, and we don't have enough time to do that. But we're just going to get this idea of how difficult it would be to just do points of color. I'm going to show you how you can make your own simple picture of that. Here's one that I did. This picture took me at least 20 minutes, and this is made on half a sheet of cardstock, so it's not very big. And it still took me around 20 minutes. I didn't time it, I don't know exactly, but something really simple. It took a long time to do. So I'm going to just show you, I'm not going to do a whole thing because you don't want to sit and watch me for that long, but I'm going to show you how to make your own. Now, what we're going to do is you can, if you want, sketch out a simple picture first. So I'm going to just do a flower. Okay, and it might be hard to see because I didn't do it very dark. So now what I'm going to do, in order to create that idea of a point, I am going to use a Q-tip instead of a brush. You could use a brush, but it's hard to keep the point if you're using a brush, unless you get a really high quality brush, and you probably don't want to do it. Now, I'm using paint. You could use something else. You could use crayons. It might be a little hard to do with crayons. Markers work, but you have to be really careful that you don't do too much, press down too hard, or you'll completely destroy your markers. You could do it with, like, if you have some old markers that you don't really care about, you could do it just to get the idea, and you could see what it was like. You could try with colored pencils, although you might find out you were sharpening them quite often. Now, if you can see, I'm pushing and then lifting up, and then I move it. So I'm just making that point, okay? And I am still working on the center of my flower, okay? So that, it took me that long to do that much, and I wasn't doing that. Now I'm gonna do, I'll do a purple petal. So I got I'm using a different end of the Q-tip, because you clearly don't want to mix colors. If you don't want to try washing out a Q-tip after it gets wet, you really can't use it again. So either if you switch to a new color, or you sometimes, depending on the amount of space you're covering with the color, it's going to take a while, or it might just get too beat up. I'm just going to do, I have my colors that are left from before, so I'm just going to do another color for my next petal. So I'm doing the same thing. I just push down, lift up, and then do it next to it. And I'm not even worrying that much. I'm even leaving some gap, a little bit of gap. But you can see it's taking me quite a while just to do that, where you can imagine if you were also worried about creating shapes, you're going to do different colors next to each other, and you're doing something that a bunch of people could actually lay down on top of because it's so big. How that would really take such a long time, but you can get the idea of what you can do. So I'm not even going to finish this flower. You can just get the idea of how you do it and how time consuming that would be. I mean, that took me several minutes just to do 3 petals and the center of my flower. So you can see if I continue to do it, even though this is a pretty small shape, it's still going to be quite time consuming. And that was simple. We weren't trying to create actual people, and you can see the different colors, and how the different dots work together to make you perceive that. But you can go ahead and, if you want, try this on your own. All right, thank you for watching.